Hi, Crohn's and Colitis donation speech by Linnea Walters. Crohn's and colitis affects 1.6 Americans nationwide, with an additional 60,000 each year being diagnosed, according to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. Crohn's and colitis is a chronic inflammatory disease and it can affect anywhere in your digestive tract, and colitis affects just your colon. It's an invisible disease that most people don't even know that you're sick because everything you're suffering from is internal. The reason that this foundation and these diseases are so important to me is because 3 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I suffered and was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I ran into the hospital not knowing what was wrong with me with what I thought was an acute appendicitis attack. Later on, I found out that that wasn't in fact what I had, that I had ulcerative colitis. When the doctor asked me originally if I knew what Crohn's was, I said no, I had never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. And that entire night that I was up all night getting tests, I researched, and that was the first I'd ever heard of it. And from then, after my 9-day stay in the hospital, it's been a battle ever since. A year after, my best friend in the entire world was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And then it occurred to me that this disease is very, very common. 1 in 200 Americans will have this disease in their lifetime. I've been interested in it since I was diagnosed back when I was 20. Before I went to that hospital that day, I never even knew what either one were or ever saw anything about them. So many people suffer in silence, and in my personal opinion, more awareness and search needs to be done because there's no cure to this chronic illness. Crohn's and colitis affects more Americans than initially thought. There's no cure, and most of the medicines that we have right now cause more side effects than they do better. Causes of this disease are also not well known. It can be hereditary, it cannot be hereditary. And it's not, doctors are not sure what really causes it, but they do know that stress and diet can make it worse. 5 to 20% of people with the disease have a first-degree relative with it. Both my dad and grandpa have inflammatory bowel disease of some form and weren't diagnosed until later on in life. Doctors know it runs in the family, but they don't know what gene causes it that would make it run in the family. It can't just be treated with meds, and 70% of Crohn's and colitis patients have to get surgery at some point in their lifetime. I am one of them. I have had 2 colitis-related surgeries since I was diagnosed in 2013. Most people with Crohn's or colitis have at one point in their life need to get a colostomy bag, which is something that they have on the outside of their body to help them with their pain. It is also known that colitis and Crohn's can directly relate to colon cancer later on in life. My grandfather, who has inflammatory bowel disease, is fighting esophageal cancer right now. That is related. Crohn's and colitis awareness has become more prevalent in the last couple of years with the release of the drug Humira and a lot more commercials on TV that are becoming more well known. People that I talk to at work or in school now know what the disease is about. You too can be a part of this new movement to help find a cure for this serious disease that up until recent wasn't very well known. By spreading awareness and donation to associations such as Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is the biggest, you can also help find the answer to the problem. Cancer and heart disease have gotten so much attention in the last decade because of the smoking and obesity epidemic in the country. But because doctors haven't been able to link these two things to Crohn's and colitis, it has fallen under the radar. There are far more associations to help cancer and heart disease than there are for Crohn's and colitis. There are tons of different kinds of cancers and a ton of different organizations for that cancers. But what a lot of people don't know is that there are 5 different kinds of ulcerative colitis and 5 different kinds of Crohn's. So 10 variants in all. When it is time for you to do your yearly charity donation, think about people in your life who may have it and just you didn't know about it. I, up until recently, never talked about my problem, and have had times where during lunch I had to go to the hospital to get a shot and come back to work and didn't let anyone know where I really was because the symptoms are embarrassing. And a lot of people don't know what you're really suffering with because they don't know what the disease is. The first issue that needs to be addressed is not enough people know about it. More awareness, more donations. As a current survivor, I believe my job is to notify the general public about the disease and how powerful and hurtful it is. 10 years from now, I predict these two diseases will take over the heart disease and cancer of our generation. It usually isn't diagnosed until 15 to 35, but in the last decade, it has drastically gone younger. And my 2-year-old is being watched for it as well. And we have a family friend that was diagnosed at 5 years old, which back then was very rare. If we don't stand together and help find the cure and cause for this disease, it's going to continue growing. Crohn's and colitis affects people every day. I suffer pain 3 to 5 times a week, and that is common for most people. The way that you can help cure and find the reason for this disease is by going and donating to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. They have plenty of ways you can do it. You can turn your socks over. You can do what's called a next step walk, which is just like a leukemia walk and things like that. That program alone has donated over $75 million to the cause, and it is the leading foundation and fundraiser for the cause. So I'm asking you, as a person that I just notified of this horrible disease, please donate and help those who suffer in silence every day. Thank you.